Listen carefully. What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about changing your life. You've been trying to become someone new. You've been working on your self-concept, building confidence, affirming who you want to be. You visualize. You repeat affirmations. You live in the end. And it's exhausting. Because you're trying to convince yourself you're someone different while still remembering everything that made you who you are. Every failure, every rejection, every moment you weren't enough, every time someone told you that you couldn't, every disappointment, every setback, every time you tried and it didn't work. You're carrying all of it, and you're trying to become someone new while dragging this entire history behind you like chains. It doesn't work. You can't build a new identity on top of an old foundation. The old stories are too heavy. The old evidence is too convincing. The old memories are too vivid. The old version of you keeps pulling you back because you remember being them. You remember being shy. So becoming confident feels like climbing a mountain. You remember struggling with money. So becoming abundant feels impossible. You remember being rejected. So believing you're loved feels like a lie. The past is always there, whispering, but you're not really that person. Remember who you actually are. Remember what really happened. Remember how things really went. And you believe it, because you do remember. And the memories feel more real than the new identity you're trying to claim. So here's what you're going to do instead. Close your eyes right now. I'm serious. Close them. Now I want you to imagine that you just woke up. But something's different. You have no memory of who you were. Complete amnesia. You can't remember your past. All of it, every single memory that formed your identity. Gone, erased, disappeared. You're sitting here right now with a completely blank internal slate. No history, no story, no identity from the past, weighing you down or propping you up. No reference points, no evidence, no proof of who you've been. Just nothing. A clean, empty, open space where your identity used to be. And in this space, someone walks up to you. Maybe it's a doctor. Maybe it's a friend you don't remember. Maybe it's just a stranger. And they ask you the simplest question in the world. Who are you? And you realize you have no idea. You can't pull from your past because you don't have one. You can't reference your history because it's gone. You can't say, well, I've always been this way, because you don't remember always. You can't say, people have told me I'm like this, because you don't remember people or what they said. You have absolutely nothing to pull from except this present moment, right here, right now, with complete freedom. So you get to decide, not based on evidence, not based on proof, not based on what happened before, but based purely on choice in this exact moment. Who are you? Stay with me here, because this is where it gets profound. When you have no memory, when you have no past, when you have no story, you realize something shocking. Identity is a choice, not a fact, not a reality, a choice. Without your memories, you're not anything. You're pure potential, pure possibility, a blank canvas, an empty page. And whoever you decide to be in that moment, that's who you are. Not because you built it, not because you earned it, not because you have evidence, but because you chose it. Let me ask you again. You have complete memory loss. No past, no history, no story. And someone asks, who are you? Are you confident? Then you're confident. That's just who you are. You don't need to remember moments of confidence to be confident. You don't need proof. You don't need evidence. You just are. Are you wealthy? Then you're wealthy. You don't need to remember earning money. You don't need to trace the path from poor to rich. You don't need to justify it or explain it. You just are. Are you loved? Then you're loved. You don't need to remember people loving you. You don't need to reference past relationships. You don't need proof that anyone cares. You just are. Are you successful, powerful, peaceful, healthy, free, beautiful, worthy, enough? Then you are. Right now. in this moment, because you have no past telling you otherwise. You have no memories contradicting you. You have no story arguing against you. You just are. This is the power of complete forgetting. You're not building a new identity on top of the old one. You're wiping the slate completely clean and choosing who you are from absolute nothing. And the person you choose to be, that's real. That's true. That's you. Not because of what you've done or what's happened or what people have said, but because you decided. Here's what I need you to understand. That past, it only has power because you keep giving it power. It only defines you because you keep letting it define you. Every time you say, I'm not confident because I remember being shy, you're choosing your past over your present. Every time you say, I can't be wealthy because I've always struggled, you're letting old memories override your current choice. Every time you say, I'm not lovable because I remember being rejected, you're making the past more real than the now. But what if you stopped doing that? What if you treated your past like it happened to someone else? What if you looked at your memories the way you'd look at someone else's story, interesting but not relevant to who you are right now? Because here's the truth that will set you free. Your past doesn't determine your identity unless you let it. Your history doesn't define who you are unless you choose to let it define you. Your memories don't control your present unless you give them that control. You could right now in this moment forget all of it. Not literally erase the memories, but forget them in the sense of releasing their grip on your identity. Forget them in the sense of no longer letting them vote on who you are. You could decide that who you were yesterday, last week, last year, 10 years ago, that person is gone. That story is over. That version of you is finished. And right now you're someone completely different. Not because you slowly transformed. Not because you worked hard to change. But because you simply forgot the old identity and chose a new one. Let me show you what you've been doing your whole life without realizing it. You wake up every morning, and before you even open your eyes fully, you remember who you are. You remember your name, you remember your life, you remember your struggles and your victories. You remember how you are, what you're like, what you can and can't do. And in remembering all of this, you step back into the identity you had yesterday. You put on the same personality like putting on the same clothes. You become the same person again. Then throughout your day, you reinforce this identity constantly. You think thoughts that match who you remember being. You make decisions based on who you've always been. You react to situations the way you've always reacted. You speak the way you've always spoken. And every time you do this, you strengthen the identity. You make it more solid, more real, more you. But here's what's wild. That identity, it's not you. It's a story. A collection of selected memories that you've decided to call me. You chose which experiences to remember, which to emphasize, which to let define you. You constructed this identity piece by piece, memory by memory, experience by experience. And now you're trapped in it. Because you keep remembering it. You keep referencing it. You keep going back to it. You want to be confident, but you keep remembering being shy. You want to be wealthy, but you keep remembering struggling. You want to be loved, but you keep remembering rejection. The new identity can't take hold because you won't let go of the old one. You're trying to be two people at once, and it's tearing you apart. So, here's what you're going to do instead. You're going to practice selective forgetting, strategic amnesia, deliberate memory loss. Every morning when you wake up, before you think about your day, before you step back into who you were yesterday, you're going to take a moment to forget. Close your eyes, take a breath, and imagine that overnight while you were sleeping, all your memories of who you've been just dissolved, evaporated, disappeared. You don't remember being insecure. Gone. You don't remember struggling. Erased. You don't remember being rejected. Vanished. You don't remember failing. Deleted. All the memories that formed your old identity, they're just not there anymore. Like they happened to someone else in another life. Or like they never happened at all. And in this space of complete forgetfulness, you ask yourself, who am I? Not who was I? Not who have I been? Who am I right now in this moment, with no past to reference? And you choose freely, completely, with no guilt, no doubt, no contradiction. I am confident. Say it, feel it, know it. Not as something you're becoming, not as something you're trying to convince yourself of, but a simple truth. You are confident. That's just who you are. No story needed. I am wealthy. Say it, feel it, know it. You don't need to remember being wealthy. You don't need to trace the path. You just are, right now. Present tense, current reality. I am loved. Say it, feel it, know it. You don't need proof. You don't need evidence. You don't need anyone's validation. You just are. Whatever identity you desire, claim it. Not as future, not as hope, but as present fact. Because you've forgotten everything that said you weren't. Spend time just being this person. No history, no proof, no story, no justification. Pure identity, pure being, pure choice. Here's what makes this so powerful. When you truly forget who you were, you don't need proof of who you are. You just are. Think about it. Someone with real memory loss doesn't say, I think I might be confident, but let me check my past to see if there's evidence. They can't check their past. It's gone. So whatever they feel themselves to be in the present moment, that's what they are. No verification needed. This is the consciousness you're cultivating. You're not building an identity on past achievements. You're not waiting for evidence to confirm who you are. You're not looking for proof in your history. You're simply choosing who you are right now, and that choice is enough. Complete, total, final. No proof needed, no evidence required, no history necessary. Just pure present moment identity chosen from complete forgetfulness of everything that said you were anything else. And when you claim identity this way, from nothing, from emptiness, from pure choice, it's unshakable. Because there's no past to contradict it. No memory to argue with it, no story to undermine it. You just are. And that's that. Now let me take you even deeper. Because there's a level of forgetting that most people never reach. A level that completely transforms how you experience reality. You're not just forgetting who you were. You're forgetting that you ever needed to become anything. Most people approach identity change like this. I am this now, but I want to become that. They acknowledge their current state and then try to get to a new state. They see themselves on a journey from lack to fulfillment, from limitation to freedom, from unworthiness to worthiness. But when you forget completely, you realize there is no journey, there is no becoming, there is no gap between who you are and who you want to be. There's only choosing right now, in this moment, with complete amnesia about any state other than the one you're selecting. You don't remember ever being unconfident, so you're not becoming confident, you just are confident. You don't remember ever lacking, so you're not becoming abundant, you just are abundant. You don't remember ever being unloved, so you're not becoming loved, you just are loved. The entire concept of transformation dissolves when you forget, because transformation implies movement from one state to another. But if you have no memory of the first state, there's no movement, there's just being. This is the deepest level of forgetting. Forgetting not just your past identity, but forgetting that you were ever anything other than what you choose to be right now. And from this place of complete forgetfulness, identity becomes instantaneous. Not a process, not a journey, not a gradual shift. Instant, immediate. Now, here's a practice that will deepen this even further. Throughout your day-to-day, act as if you just arrived in your life. Like you just woke up in this body, in this situation, with no memory of how you got here. You look around and you see your apartment, your job, your relationships, your bank account, your body, and you have no idea how any of it came to be. You don't remember the choices that led here. You don't remember the past that created this present. You're just here. Now, with complete forgetfulness of the journey. And from this place of complete newness, you ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this situation as the person I am now? Not how have I always responded. Not what does my past say I should do, but who am I right now, and how does this version of me move through this moment? Someone at work treats you poorly. Normally you might remember past instances of this, might recall your history of being walked over, might respond from the identity of someone who accepts mistreatment. But you've forgotten. You don't remember being that person. So you respond as who you are now, confident, worthy, clear about your boundaries. Not because you worked up the courage, but because you forgot you were ever anything else. You check your bank account and see a number that would normally trigger lack consciousness. But you've forgotten scarcity. You don't remember struggling. So you look at the number with complete neutrality and choose, I am abundant. This number is irrelevant to who I am. You wake up alone and would normally feel the weight of loneliness, the memory of rejection, the story of being unwanted. But you've forgotten all of it. So you wake up as someone who is loved, who is wanted, who is chosen, regardless of who's physically in the bed. Every moment becomes a fresh start. Every interaction becomes a new choice. Every experience becomes an opportunity to forget and choose again. This practice, this constant forgetting and choosing, gives you something most people never experience in their entire lives. Complete freedom from your past. You're not a prisoner of your history. You're not defined by your experiences. You're not limited by who you've been. You're not trapped in patterns that have repeated for years or decades. Every single moment you forget. Every single moment you choose fresh. Every single moment you are whoever you decide to be with no reference to anything that came before. This is power. Real power. Not the power to control others or circumstances, but the power to choose your own identity independent of anything external. You're not at the mercy of your memories. You're not controlled by your past. You're not determined by your conditioning. You're free. Completely, totally, absolutely free. Free to be confident even though you were shy. Free to be abundant even though you struggled. Free to be loved even though you were rejected. Free to be powerful even though you were weak. Free to be successful even though you failed. Because you forgot. And in forgetting you became unlimited. The limitations were just memories you kept reinforcing. The unworthiness was just a story you kept telling. The lack was just an identity you kept choosing. Now you're choosing differently. By forgetting completely and being fully. This is your power. This is your freedom. This is your truth. You're not becoming someone new. You're forgetting you were ever anyone old. And in that forgetting, you're discovering who you've always been, beneath all the stories, beneath all the memories, beneath all the conditioning. Pure consciousness. Pure being. Pure unlimited potential. Now go forget. And in forgetting, become everything you've always known you could be. The rest of your life starts now. And remember, you don't need to remember anything to be everything. In fact, the less you remember, the more you become. So forget completely, radically, constantly. And watch as your entire reality shifts to match the person you choose to be right now, in this moment, with no past to contradict you. This is who you are. This has always been who you are. You just forgot to forget. Now you know. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.
Listen closely, for I am about to reveal something that will change everything you believe about yourself and your place in this world. There exists a secret that the truly magnetic understand, those who never beg, never chase, never diminish themselves for crumbs of attention. They know something you have forgotten. You see, my friend, you have been living as though you are a beggar in the marketplace of life, desperately holding out your cup, hoping someone will drop a coin of recognition into it. But what you fail to realize is that you are the marketplace. You are not the beggar, you are the treasure everyone seeks. Tonight I'm going to show you how to awaken from this poverty consciousness and step into your true nature as the prize itself. But more than that, I'm going to show you the exact mental techniques that will transform you from someone who begs to be chosen into someone who chooses. For years, you have operated under a fundamental misunderstanding. You have believed that your worth is something external, something to be proven, earned, validated by others. This is the great lie that keeps you small. Let me tell you something that will shake you to your core. Every single person who has ever made you feel less was unconsciously reflecting back to you your own inner poverty. They sensed your need, your desperation, your hunger for validation, and instinctively, they withdrew. Not because they are cruel, but because neediness repels, while self-possession attracts. In your imagination, and remember, imagination is the creative power of God within you. You have seen yourself as lacking, as incomplete, as someone who needs another's approval to be whole. But I ask you, when you look in the mirror of your mind, do you see a beggar or a king? The truth is this: every person you encounter is simply a reflection of the state you occupy within yourself. When you assume the feeling of being chosen, of being valuable, of being someone whose very presence is a gift, the world mirrors this back to you without fail. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next will completely transform how you move through the world. There is an ancient secret that the mystics knew, that royalty understood instinctively, that the truly powerful have always embodied: the secret of self-possession. When you possess yourself completely, your emotions, your energy, your attention, you become a force that others naturally want to orbit around. Think of the most magnetic person you've ever encountered. I guarantee you, they had this quality. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They weren't performing for approval. They simply were, completely, authentically, unapologetically themselves. And in that authentic presence, they became irresistible. But here's what most people don't understand. This quality isn't something you're born with or without. It's a state of consciousness you can cultivate. It's a way of being you can learn. And once you master it, your entire life transforms. There is a state of consciousness, let's call it the state of inner royalty, that you must learn to inhabit. In this state, you do not question your worth any more than the sun questions its right to shine. You simply are. When you truly occupy this state, something remarkable happens. You stop performing for others' approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Instead, you move through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value is not up for debate. I have observed this phenomenon countless times. The person who needs nothing from others receives everything. The person who can walk away maintains all the power. The person who values their own company finds themselves surrounded by those who recognize quality. But here's what most people don't understand. This is not about becoming cold or distant. This is about becoming so full of your own divine nature that you overflow with genuine presence, not desperate need. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this perfectly. I once knew a woman who transformed her entire social circle simply by changing her inner state. She had been the one everyone called when they needed something. A shoulder to cry on, money to borrow, someone to listen to their problems. She was always available, always giving, always there. And yet she felt invisible. She felt taken for granted. She felt like an option, not a priority. Here's what she did that changed everything. And you can do this too. This woman decided to conduct an experiment for 40 days. Instead of assuming she was someone who needed to give to be valued, she began to assume she was someone whose very presence was valuable. Every morning she would spend 10 minutes imagining herself as someone who was naturally cherished, respected, and sought after. She didn't change her external behavior dramatically. She simply changed her inner assumption about herself. And within 2 weeks everything shifted. The people who had been taking her for granted began reaching out more intentionally. New people entered her life who treated her with the respect she had been giving herself internally. By the end of 40 days, her entire social reality had transformed. But here's the key. She didn't try to change others. She changed her concept of herself, and others responded to that change automatically. This is the power of assumption. This is the law of consciousness, made manifest. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you are a rare diamond. Now, does this diamond chase after people, begging them to recognize its brilliance? Does it diminish its sparkle to make cheaper stones feel better about themselves? Of course not. It simply exists in its perfect state, and those with eyes to see are naturally drawn to its beauty. This is what I call sacred detachment. The ability to love without clinging, to care without losing yourself, to desire without desperation. When you master this art, you become magnetic in a way that cannot be manufactured or faked. Sacred detachment is not indifference. It's not coldness. It's not playing hard to get. It's something far more profound. It's the recognition that your completeness doesn't depend on anyone else's participation in your life. When you are complete within yourself, others sense this wholeness and are drawn to it. They want to be part of something whole, rather than trying to fill someone's emptiness. But here's where most people go wrong. And if you're making this mistake, everything I've shared so far won't work. Many people, when they first hear about detachment, make a crucial error. They try to detach by building walls, by becoming cold, by pretending not to care. This is false detachment, and it actually pushes people away, not because of your power, but because of your fear. True detachment comes from love. Love of yourself, love of life, love of truth. It comes from being so full that you don't need to extract anything from others to feel complete. False detachment comes from hurt. Hurt that masquerades as strength. Pain that pretends to be power. The difference is this: true detachment attracts because it feels like freedom. False detachment repels because it feels like a prison. You see, many people confuse detachment with indifference. They think being unavailable means being cold or playing games. But true detachment comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. It comes from loving yourself so completely that you no longer need to extract love from others to feel whole. When you truly love yourself, not in a narcissistic way, but in a divine way, recognizing yourself as a magnificent expression of the infinite, you create what I call a magnetic field of self-love. This field draws to you experiences and people that match your level of self-regard. Think of it this way. If you were a radio station, what frequency would you be broadcasting? Would it be the frequency of "Please love me," or would it be the frequency of "I am love" itself? The frequency you broadcast is the frequency you receive back. Most people are broadcasting need, lack, desperation, and then they wonder why they attract people who are unavailable, uncommitted, or disrespectful. But when you broadcast completeness, wholeness, self-love, you attract people who recognize and match that energy. Here's a practical technique I want you to master. Every morning, before you interact with anyone, I want you to tune into your inner frequency. Ask yourself, what am I broadcasting right now? Am I broadcasting need or wholeness? Am I broadcasting desperation or completion? If you sense that you're broadcasting from a place of lack, if you're hoping this day will bring you the validation you crave, if you're anxious about whether someone will text you back, if you're looking for others to fill the emptiness inside you, then stop. Don't go into the world broadcasting that frequency. Instead, spend time filling yourself up, not with external things, but with the recognition of your own divine nature. Feel what it's like to be completely loved by the universe itself. Feel what it's like to be someone whose very existence is precious and valuable. Only when you're broadcasting wholeness should you engage with others. This single shift will transform every interaction you have. Now I want you to understand something crucial about the nature of reality. Everything you experience in your outer world is a direct result of the assumptions you hold about yourself in your inner world. If you assume you are an option, the world will treat you as such. If you assume you are indispensable, that too will be reflected back to you. This is not positive thinking or wishful fantasy. This is spiritual law. Your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is its projection. So I ask you, what have you been assuming about yourself? Have you been living in the assumption that you must prove your worth, that you must earn love, that you must compete for attention? If so, you have been creating from a state of lack, and lack is all that can be returned to you. But assumptions can be changed. And when you change your assumptions about yourself, you literally change your reality. What I'm about to tell you next might sound impossible, but I assure you, it's the most practical thing you'll ever learn. There are 3 sacred assumptions that will transform your life if you embody them completely. First, sacred assumption. I am inherently valuable, not because of what you do, not because of what you achieve, not because of who validates you. You are valuable because you exist. You are valuable because consciousness itself chose to express through you. This assumption must become as natural to you as breathing. Second sacred assumption. My presence is a gift. When you enter a room, you are not hoping to receive something. You are bringing something. Your energy, your consciousness, your unique perspective, these are gifts you bring to any interaction. Feel this truth until it becomes automatic. Third sacred assumption. I choose, I am not chosen. You are not at the mercy of others' decisions about you. You are not waiting to be picked. You are the one doing the selecting. You are the one deciding who gets access to your energy, your time, your presence. When these 3 assumptions become your natural state, everything changes. You stop being a seeker and become a selector. You stop being needy and become magnetic. Here's something I want you to try tonight. Before you sleep, I want you to revise your day, not just the events, but your entire relationship to yourself throughout those events. Remember that moment when you felt ignored. Revise it. See yourself as someone whose presence commanded attention, not through effort, but through natural magnetism. Remember when you felt like you were chasing. Revise it. See yourself as someone so centered in their own worth that others are drawn to orbit around your energy. But don't just revise the external events. Revise your internal state. Revise how you felt about yourself in those moments. Instead of feeling needy, feel complete. Instead of feeling desperate, feel centered. Instead of feeling like you're not enough, feel like you are more than enough. This is not self-deception. This is training your consciousness to occupy the state of the person you are meant to be. And as you persist in this assumption, your outer world must conform to match it. The person who knows they are valuable stops acting from scarcity. They stop overgiving. They stop tolerating disrespect. They stop being available to everyone and start being precious to the few who truly see them. And here's a secret that will accelerate your transformation. The secret of mental rehearsal. Before any important interaction, before a date, before a meeting, before any social situation, spend time mentally rehearsing from your new state. But don't rehearse what you'll say or do. Rehearse who you'll be. See yourself moving through that interaction as someone who knows their worth. Feel what it's like to be completely comfortable in your own skin. Imagine the other person responding to your energy of self-possession with respect and interest. This isn't about manipulating outcomes. This is about training yourself to naturally embody the state of someone who is valued and respected. And when you consistently embody that state, it becomes your reality. There is something deeply attractive about a person who possesses themselves completely. They do not leak their energy in desperate attempts to be seen. They do not scatter their attention among those who barely notice. Instead, they contain their power like a vessel holds water, full, complete, overflowing, only when they choose to pour. I have noticed that people are drawn to mystery, to depth, to that which cannot be easily grasped or controlled. When you become self-possessed, you naturally become mysterious. Not because you're trying to hide, but because you're no longer trying to expose everything about yourself to gain approval. Here's the paradox that will change everything for you. The more you need to be chosen, the less likely you are to be chosen. The more you need to be seen, the more invisible you become. But the moment you withdraw your need from others and become complete within yourself, you become irresistible. This is because people are unconsciously drawn to wholeness. They can sense when someone is not trying to get something from them, and this absence of neediness creates space for genuine connection to emerge. Think about it this way. When someone is desperately trying to get something from you, your approval, your attention, your validation, how does it feel? It feels heavy, draining, uncomfortable. You instinctively want to pull away. But when someone is complete within themselves, when they're not trying to extract anything from you, when they're simply present and authentic, how does that feel? It feels refreshing, inspiring, magnetic. You want to be around that energy. This is the paradox. The less you need from others, the more they want to give to you. I want you to conduct what I call an energy audit of your life. Look at your relationships, your interactions, your daily habits, and ask yourself, am I giving my energy away freely, or am I being selective about how I invest it? Most people are energy spendthrifts. They give their attention to anyone who asks for it. They engage with every drama, respond to every demand, make themselves available to every person who shows even slight interest. And then they wonder why they feel drained and undervalued. But valuable things are scarce. If your energy is available to everyone, it becomes worthless. If your attention can be captured by anyone, it loses its power. If your presence is guaranteed regardless of how you're treated, it stops being precious. The energy audit will show you where you've been undervaluing yourself. Once you see this clearly, you can begin to make different choices. The next principle I'm going to share is so powerful, it can change your life in 24 hours. Here's a challenge that will immediately shift how others perceive you. For the next 24 hours, I want you to act as if you are already the most valued person in your own life. Not arrogantly, not rudely, but with quiet dignity. This means you don't explain your decisions to people who haven't earned that level of intimacy with you. You don't argue with anyone about your worth or try to convince them to see your value. You don't make yourself available to everyone who demands your attention. You don't settle for treatment that doesn't match your inner dignity. You speak to yourself with the same respect you would show to someone you deeply admire. For just 24 hours, live as if you already know you're valuable. See what happens. I guarantee you'll be surprised by how differently people respond to you. Here's something beautiful I want you to understand. You don't have to earn love. Love is your natural state. You are love expressing itself in human form. The only reason you feel unloved is because you have forgotten this truth and have been looking for it in all the wrong places. When you assume you are love, not that you need love, but that you are love, your entire energy shifts. You stop being a seeker and become a source. People feel this shift immediately. They are drawn to your energy because it feels like coming home to themselves. But this assumption must be cultivated. It must be practiced. It must become as natural as breathing. Every morning when you wake, and every evening before you sleep, I want you to do this practice. Close your eyes and assume you are completely loved by the universe itself. Not conditionally loved based on your behavior or achievements, but unconditionally loved simply because you exist. Feel this love surrounding you like warm sunlight. As you feel this universal love, begin to extend that same love to yourself. Love yourself the way the universe loves you, completely, unconditionally, without reservation. From this state of being filled with love, imagine moving through your day. See yourself interacting with others, not from a place of need, but from a place of overflow. You're not trying to get love from them because you're already full of love. Practice this faithfully for 30 days, and watch how your relationships transform. When you stop seeking love and start being love, everything changes. When you truly understand your worth, chasing becomes impossible. Not because you've decided not to chase, but because the very idea of chasing feels foreign to who you are. Lions don't chase mice. The sun doesn't chase the planets. They simply exist in their power, and everything else responds accordingly. This is the state I want you to reach, not through force or effort, but through recognition. Recognition that you have always been enough. Recognition that your value is not dependent on anyone else's acknowledgement. Recognition that you are the prize, and the right people will be honored to receive you. But let me be clear about what I mean by not chasing. I don't mean becoming passive or uninvolved in life. I mean operating from a place of fullness rather than emptiness, from wholeness rather than need. When you're complete within yourself, You can pursue what you want without desperation. You can express interest without neediness. You can take action without attachment to outcomes. This is the difference between inspired action and desperate chasing. Remember this always. Everyone in your life is reflecting back to you the relationship you have with yourself. The person who takes you for granted, they're showing you where you take yourself for granted. The person who doesn't see your worth, they're reflecting back areas where you don't see your own worth. This principle is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it means you can't blame others for how they treat you. They're only mirroring your inner state. Empowering because it means you have complete control over how you're treated. By changing your relationship with yourself. When someone disrespects you, instead of getting angry at them, ask yourself, where am I disrespecting myself? When someone ignores you, ask, where am I ignoring my own needs? When someone treats you as an option, ask, where am I treating myself as an option? This is why changing others is impossible. But changing yourself changes everything. When you truly value yourself, you will only attract and accept people who value you. When you truly love yourself, you will only engage with love. When you truly respect yourself, respect is all that will be offered to you. There is a state of consciousness where you feel complete within yourself. In this state, other people become bonuses to your life, not necessities. Relationships become choices, not needs. Love becomes an overflow, not a requirement. From this state of completion, you naturally become selective. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you can feel the difference between what nourishes you and what depletes you. You can sense who sees you clearly and who projects their fantasies onto you. This state of completion doesn't mean you don't desire connection with others. It means you don't need connection to feel whole. And paradoxically, this makes you much more attractive to others, because neediness repels while wholeness attracts. To cultivate this state, you must learn to be excellent company for yourself. You must enjoy your own thoughts, appreciate your own humor, find your own presence engaging. When you genuinely enjoy being alone with yourself, others will enjoy being with you too. As you begin to embody these truths, as you step into the state of knowing your worth, you will notice changes. Some people will fall away from your life. Those who were only there to consume your energy. Don't mourn their departure. Celebrate your freedom. Others will begin to treat you differently. They will seek your approval instead of you seeking theirs. They will compete for your attention instead of you fighting for recognition. They will value your time because you have shown them it's valuable. New people will enter your experience. People who match your new level of self-respect and self-love. These relationships will feel different, deeper, more authentic, because they're built on truth rather than need. But the most profound transformation will be internal. You'll stop waking up anxious about whether you're liked. You'll stop checking your phone desperately for validation. You'll stop analyzing every interaction for signs of approval or rejection. Instead, you'll wake up centered in your own worth. You'll move through your day from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. You'll engage with others from curiosity and care rather than need and desperation. This is your moment of choice. You can continue living as you have, seeking validation, chasing approval, diminishing yourself for crumbs of recognition. Or you can step into the truth of who you really are. Someone so inherently valuable that your very existence is a gift to this world. The techniques I've shared are not theories to be pondered, but practices to be lived. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to see yourself as the universe sees you, as perfect, complete, and infinitely worthy of love. So I leave you with this. Stop asking to be chosen. Start choosing. Stop seeking to be seen. Start being so magnificently yourself that you cannot be ignored. The world has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Now go forth and claim your throne. It has been waiting for you all along.
My friends, I want to share with you tonight something that will completely transform your relationship with money. Not through effort, not through struggle, but through understanding a simple truth that consciousness is the only reality. What if I told you that your bank account right now has absolutely nothing to do with your ability to create massive wealth? What if I told you that someone living paycheck to paycheck could manifest $10,000 faster than a millionaire could manifest their next million? I know that sounds impossible to your rational mind, but before this evening is over, I'm going to completely shatter everything you think you know about wealth creation. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this perfectly. I observed two people, both 35 years old, both college graduates, both living in the same city with identical circumstances. The first person worked 60 hours a week at their corporate position, maintained 3 side ventures running on weekends, followed every financial advisor's recommendations religiously, budgeted every single penny, read investment books voraciously, attended wealth seminars, tracked expenses obsessively, and sacrificed their entire social life for financial goals. They did everything the experts commanded them to do. The second person worked part-time at something they absolutely loved, spent money freely on things that brought them joy and fulfillment, never worried about their finances, never checked their bank balance obsessively, had never read a finance book or attended a wealth seminar in their life, and didn't even maintain a budget. To most financial advisors, this second person would be considered financially irresponsible, even reckless. After 5 years, the second person had 10 times more money than the first. They didn't inherit it, didn't win any lottery, didn't get lucky with investments, didn't start with any advantages whatsoever. The only difference, and I mean the only difference, was what was happening in their consciousness around money. The first person was operating from what I call scarcity consciousness. The deep-seated belief that money is hard to get, that you must work extremely hard for every dollar, that there isn't enough to go around, that you must sacrifice and struggle to be worthy of wealth. The second person was operating from wealth consciousness. The absolute knowing that money flows easily and naturally to those who are aligned with it, that opportunities are everywhere waiting to be recognized, that abundance is their natural birthright, that wealth is simply a reflection of their inner state of being, and that difference in consciousness created completely different financial realities. This is what I call the great deception about money. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Your entire relationship with money will transform forever. You see, most of you have been programmed since childhood with a fundamental lie. This lie has been reinforced by your parents who learned it from their parents, taught in schools, promoted by society, and especially perpetuated by the financial industry itself, because it keeps them in business. You've been told that money comes from external effort alone. Work harder, get more money. Work smarter, get more money. Get more education, more skills, more connections, more experience. Save more, invest more, budget more, sacrifice more, hustle more. The entire financial world operates on this fundamental assumption that money is created through external action and external action alone. I'm not saying those things don't matter. External action is important. But here's what nobody tells you. Here's the secret the financial industry doesn't want you to know because it would put them out of business. All of that external action is completely powerless without the right consciousness behind it. You can have the best financial strategy in the world, but if your consciousness is tuned to scarcity, that strategy will fail. You can work 80 hours a week, but if your inner state is one of lack and limitation, you'll stay broke no matter how hard you work. Think about it this way, and this analogy will change how you see everything. You have two people planting identical seeds, same size, same genetic potential for growth. One person plants their seeds in rich, fertile soil that's been prepared with organic nutrients, perfect drainage, optimal conditions for growth. They've created an environment where those seeds cannot help but flourish. The other person takes the exact same seeds and plants them in concrete, hard, impenetrable concrete that won't allow any growth whatsoever. They water them with the same care, give them the same sunlight, tend to them with the same attention and dedication. Which seeds grow? Obviously the ones in fertile soil. The external action, planting the seed, watering it, giving it sunlight, caring for it, was identical. But the environment, the foundation, the soil itself, determined whether those seeds would flourish or die before they even had a chance to sprout. Your consciousness is that soil. Your beliefs about money, your assumptions about wealth, your inner state around finances, your subconscious programming about what you deserve, your inherited beliefs from your family, your cultural conditioning about wealthy people. That's the environment where all your financial efforts either flourish or die. Most people have been trying to grow money in concrete their entire lives, wondering why nothing works, wondering why they can't get ahead no matter how hard they try, wondering why other people seem to have it so easy while they struggle for every dollar. They're focused entirely on the external actions, the seeds they're planting, the watering, the care, while completely ignoring the soil of their consciousness. But consciousness, that invisible inner environment, that's the true source of all wealth. So let me ask you something. Where does money actually come from? Most would immediately say work or business or investments or the stock market or real estate. But think deeper than that. Think about the fundamental source. Where do business ideas come from? Where do investment opportunities come from? Where do the insights that lead to financial breakthroughs come from? Where do the innovations that create billion-dollar companies come from? They come from consciousness, from awareness, from your ability to recognize patterns that others miss, to see possibilities that others overlook, to attract what already exists in the infinite field of potential. Every single dollar that has ever entered your life came to you through your consciousness first. You became aware of an opportunity others didn't see. You recognized a possibility others missed. You had an idea others didn't have. You met the right person at the right time. You were in the right place when the opportunity presented itself. And here's the key that changes everything. The money was always there, existing in the quantum field of infinite possibilities, waiting for someone with the right consciousness to recognize it and claim it. Every business that exists today, every fortune that's been made, every financial opportunity that's ever manifested, all of these existed as possibilities long before someone made them real. The television and radio existed as a possibility long before they were invented. Your next financial breakthrough exists as a possibility right now, waiting for your consciousness to tune into it. Your consciousness is like a radio that can tune into different frequencies of possibility. When your consciousness is tuned to scarcity, you literally cannot see the opportunities that are right in front of you. Your mind filters them out because they don't match your predominant frequency. When your consciousness is tuned to wealth, you become magnetic to financial opportunities. You start noticing things you never noticed before. You start attracting people and circumstances that create abundance. Let me share another story that makes this crystal clear. I knew a woman named Sarah who struggled financially for 7 years straight. She worked 2 jobs, one as a waitress and one cleaning offices at night, barely making ends meet, constantly living paycheck to paycheck with no savings. She tried everything the financial experts recommend. She used budgeting applications, tried multiple side ventures, took on extra shifts, even went back to school for additional certifications. She read every money book she could find, attended every free wealth seminar, followed every piece of conventional financial advice. Nothing worked. In fact, things seemed to get worse the harder she tried. She was stuck in what I call the effort trap, the belief that more effort equals more results. But she was applying all that effort from scarcity consciousness, so she kept getting scarcity results. It's like trying to drive with the parking brake engaged. No matter how hard you press the accelerator, you're not going anywhere. Then she learned what I'm teaching you tonight. She stopped focusing on her current financial situation and started operating from wealth consciousness. Instead of making decisions from I can't afford it, she started making decisions from how can I afford it. Instead of thinking I'm broke, she started assuming I have access to unlimited wealth. Instead of worrying about money constantly, she started feeling grateful for the abundance already flowing to her, even though she couldn't see it yet. Instead of seeing herself as someone who struggles with money, she started seeing herself as someone who naturally attracts wealth. Within 3 months, her life completely transformed. Her employer at the restaurant offered her a management position she didn't even apply for, along with a 40% salary increase. A week later, A customer she had served once months earlier approached her about a business partnership that would essentially double her income while working fewer hours. 2 weeks after that, her neighbor, a successful entrepreneur traveling abroad for 6 months, asked if she wanted to stay in their beautiful home rent-free while they were gone. A month later, walking through a parking lot, she found a wallet with $300 cash and no identification. After following all legal procedures and waiting the required time, she was able to keep the money. 2 months after that, she had an idea for teaching people her wellness routines through an evening course. She had never created such a course before, had no technical skills, no marketing experience, no business background. But from her new consciousness of abundance, the idea felt natural and exciting rather than overwhelming and impossible. She launched that course and made $15,000 in her first month. Within a year, she had built a six-figure business working from home, doing what she loved. Now here's what will probably give you chills when you fully understand it. Your current financial reality is actually showing you exactly what's happening in your consciousness right now. It's like a perfect readout of your inner state around money. What I'm about to share will change how you see money forever. I call it the money mirror principle, and it's one of the most profound truths about wealth creation. Your external financial reality is a perfect mirror reflection of your internal financial consciousness. Not what you consciously want, not what you hope for, not what you tell yourself you desire, but what you truly believe and assume to be true about money at the deepest levels of your subconscious mind. Your bank account, your income, your financial opportunities, your money problems, your relationship with wealth, all of it is reflecting back to you the exact consciousness you're broadcasting about money, most of which is happening below your conscious awareness. This is why you cannot lie to the universe. You cannot fake wealth consciousness. You cannot pretend your way to abundance. The mirror of reality always shows you the truth of what's really happening inside your consciousness. If you look in a physical mirror and see a frown, you don't try to change the mirror, correct? You don't get angry at the mirror or try to convince it to show you a smile. You don't put cosmetics on the mirror or try to manipulate the reflection. You change your facial expression, and the mirror changes automatically and instantly to match your new expression. The same with money. If you want to change your financial reflection, you must change your financial consciousness first. The external always follows the internal, never the other way around. This is why trying to create wealth through external action alone is like trying to change your reflection by manipulating the mirror. It doesn't work because you're working on the effect rather than the cause. When someone truly believes, not hopes, not wishes, not wants, but truly believes at a cellular subconscious level that money comes easily to them, their entire behavior shifts automatically without effort. They notice opportunities that were always there but invisible to them before. They make different choices without even thinking about it consciously. They take different actions that feel natural and effortless rather than forced and difficult. They attract different people into their lives. They have different conversations. They show up differently in the world. And those shifted behaviors create completely different results. When someone believes deep down that money is hard to get, that they must struggle for every dollar, that they don't deserve wealth, that wealthy people are somehow corrupt or different, that there isn't enough to go around, they unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that comes their way. They overlook possibilities right in front of them. They make fear-based decisions that keep them stuck in limitation. They attract people and circumstances that confirm their limiting beliefs. They engage in self-sabotaging behaviors without even realizing it. And they get fear-based limited results that match their inner state. But changing consciousness isn't about positive thinking or daily affirmations or vision boards, though those can be helpful tools when used correctly. It requires understanding something much more fundamental and powerful that most people never learn. This brings us to the law of assumption, the most powerful principle in money creation and honestly in all of reality creation. Most people have never heard of the law of assumption, even though it's operating in their lives every single day. They've heard of the law of attraction, but the law of assumption is far more powerful and far more practical. Here's the critical difference that changes everything. And pay close attention, because this could be the most important thing you ever learn about creating wealth. When you hope for money, when you wish for wealth, when you want financial abundance, you're actually affirming and reinforcing the fact that you don't currently have it. Hope implies lack. Wishing implies absence. Wanting means you're focused on what you don't have rather than what you do have. Every time you hope for money, you're unconsciously telling the universe, I don't have money, please give me some. And the universe responds by giving you more experiences of not having money. But when you assume wealth is yours, when you operate from the inner knowing that abundance is your natural state, when you make decisions as if you already have access to unlimited financial resources, you're claiming wealth is already true in your reality. You're not asking for it. You're not begging for it. You're not hoping for it. You're assuming it. You're embodying it. You're living from it. Let me give you a simple example that will make this crystal clear and show you how assumption works in everyday life. If I told you right now to hope that you're wearing clothes, that would be strange, wouldn't it? You don't hope you're wearing clothes. You assume it. You know it. It's not even a question. You don't have to check. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to convince yourself or use affirmations to believe it. You simply assume that you're clothed, and you operate from that assumption automatically and unconsciously. That assumption affects everything about how you show up in the world. You don't worry about being naked. You don't feel self-conscious about your nudity. You don't hope that people won't notice you're not wearing clothes. You simply operate from the assumption that you're appropriately dressed, and that assumption creates your entire experience of reality in that moment. That's exactly how you need to relate to money and wealth. Not as something you're desperately trying to get. Not as something outside of you that you need to chase or struggle for. Not as something you have to convince the universe to give you, but as something you already have natural unlimited access to. It's a shift from I want money to I am wealthy. From I hope I can afford it to I can afford anything I truly desire. From money is hard to get to money flows to me easily and constantly. In the quantum field of infinite possibilities. And quantum physics has proven this scientifically through experiments like the double-slit experiment. There exists every possible version of reality simultaneously. There's a version where you're struggling financially, and there's also a version where you're incredibly wealthy. There's a timeline where you're worried about money, and there's a timeline where money is never a concern for you. There's a reality where you work hard for every dollar, and there's a reality where money comes to you effortlessly. All of these realities exist simultaneously in what physicists call the quantum field. When you assume the wealthy version as your true reality, when you embody that timeline with your thoughts, feelings, decisions, and actions, you begin collapsing that possibility into your physical experience. You start attracting the people, circumstances, opportunities, and resources that exist in that wealthy timeline. The difference between wanting money and being wealthy is the difference between lack consciousness and abundance consciousness. Wanting keeps you perpetually in a state of not having. Being puts you in a state of already having. And the universe always gives you more of whatever state you're predominantly in. Think about it this way. If you want ice cream, that means you don't have ice cream. The wanting itself is an affirmation of lack. But if you're eating ice cream, you're not wanting it. You're having it, enjoying it, being satisfied by it. When you want money, you're in the frequency of not having money. When you assume you're wealthy, you're in the frequency of having wealth. And when you truly understand this, when this clicks at a deep level, you realize that there's an actual frequency to wealth itself. Let me introduce you to what I call the wealth frequency. And this concept alone could transform your entire financial reality forever. Everything in existence operates at different vibrational frequencies. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is basic physics that you can measure with scientific instruments. Love has a measurable frequency. Fear has a frequency. Gratitude has a frequency. Joy has a frequency. And wealth, abundance, financial prosperity. These have a very specific frequency that you can learn to tune into consciously. Scientists have actually measured the frequency of different emotions using specialized technology. They found that emotions like gratitude, love, and appreciation create coherent, harmonious frequency patterns, while emotions like fear, anger, and worry create chaotic, incoherent patterns. When you're in coherent frequency states, you literally become more magnetic to positive outcomes and opportunities. When you align your consciousness with the wealth frequency, when you match your inner vibration to the vibration of abundance, you become magnetic to money. You start attracting opportunities, ideas, people, insights, and circumstances that create financial abundance. It's not magic or wishful thinking. It's physics. Think of it like tuning a radio. And this analogy will change how you think about consciousness forever. When you tune to 101.5 FM, you receive that station's signal clearly. When you tune to 95.3 FM, you get that station instead. The radio waves for both stations are always there, filling the air around you simultaneously. But you only receive the one you're tuned to. You cannot receive multiple stations clearly at the same time. You must choose one frequency to focus on. When you tune your consciousness to the wealth frequency, you receive wealth. When you're tuned to the scarcity frequency, you receive scarcity. When you're tuned to the struggle frequency, you receive struggle. When you're tuned to the abundance frequency, you receive abundance. The opportunities for all of these experiences are always present, but you can only receive the ones that match your frequency. Most people are unconsciously broadcasting the scarcity frequency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're constantly transmitting thoughts, feelings, and energy of lack, worry, limitation, not enough, fear about money, stress about bills, anxiety about the future, resentment toward wealthy people, beliefs that money is hard to get, and the universe, like a perfect mirror, reflects back exactly what they're broadcasting. They get more experiences of lack, more bills to worry about, more financial stress, more reasons to feel anxious about money. But once you learn how to consciously tune to the wealth frequency, your entire financial reality transforms. You start operating from assumption rather than hope, from abundance rather than lack, from gratitude rather than worry, from excitement rather than fear. You begin making decisions the way wealthy people make decisions. You start seeing opportunities the way wealthy people see opportunities. You attract the same types of people and circumstances that wealthy people attract. But here's the most important part. And this is where most people get confused or think this is about denial or delusion. None of this requires you to deny your current financial situation or pretend that your bank account has more money than it actually has. You're not lying to yourself or living in fantasy or ignoring reality. You're simply operating from a different level of consciousness, a different assumption about what's possible for you. You can acknowledge your current situation while simultaneously operating from wealth consciousness. You can say, I currently have $500 in my bank account and I have access to unlimited wealth. You can say, I'm currently experiencing a cash flow challenge and I know that abundance is my natural state. You can say, my income is currently this amount and I'm open to receiving much more. The key is holding both truths simultaneously, the current physical reality and the larger spiritual reality. You're not denying what is, but you're also not limiting yourself to what is. You're acknowledging what is while claiming what's possible. Most people make the mistake of thinking that acknowledging their current financial situation means they have to accept it as permanent. But that's not true. You can acknowledge where you are while simultaneously moving toward where you want to be. In fact, you must acknowledge where you are in order to move beyond it, because you cannot change what you won't acknowledge. The moment you truly grasp that consciousness creates your financial reality, not the other way around. Everything shifts in the most profound way. You realize you've been trying to solve an inner problem with outer solutions. You've been trying to change your bank account to feel wealthy when the real secret is to feel wealthy first. And let your bank account catch up. You've been trying to change your circumstances to change your feelings, when the truth is you must change your feelings to change your circumstances. Most people are waiting for their external circumstances to change before they'll allow themselves to feel abundant. They think once I have more money, then I'll feel wealthy. Once I get that promotion, then I'll feel successful. Once I pay off my debts, then I'll feel free. Once I reach my financial goals, then I'll be happy. But that's backwards. That's like waiting for the mirror to smile before you smile. It will never happen because the mirror can only reflect what you're already expressing. You must feel wealthy now, in this moment, regardless of your current circumstances, in order to attract the experiences that will match that feeling. You must embody abundance before abundance can manifest in your life. You must become the person who has what you want before you can have what you want. This is why some people can start with nothing and create massive wealth quickly, while others can work for decades with all the correct strategies and stay stuck financially. It's not about luck, connections, education, intelligence, or even hard work, though all of those can be helpful. It's about consciousness. It's about the frequency you're broadcasting. It's about the assumptions you're operating from on a moment-to-moment basis. When you embody wealth consciousness, when you truly assume that abundance is your natural state, when you make decisions from overflow rather than scarcity, the universe has no choice but to reorganize itself to match your new level of consciousness. Opportunities appear seemingly out of nowhere. Ideas download into your mind like inspiration from another dimension. The right people show up at the right time with the right resources. Synchronicities become normal everyday experiences. What most people call luck becomes your standard operating procedure. Your consciousness is the soil where your financial future grows. Just like a farmer wouldn't plant seeds in concrete and expect them to flourish, you cannot plant money goals in scarcity consciousness and expect them to manifest. But when you prepare the soil of your consciousness, when you cultivate beliefs that support wealth, when you assume abundance as your natural state, every financial goal you plant will grow and flourish beyond what you thought possible. The financial industry doesn't want you to know this because it would put them out of business. They want you to believe that wealth creation is complicated, that you need their products and services, that you must follow their complex strategies and formulas, that you need to work with financial advisors and purchase their investment products and follow their complicated plans. But the truth is much simpler and much more powerful than anything they're selling you. Wealth is an inside job. It starts in consciousness and flows outward into physical reality. When your consciousness is aligned with abundance, the correct strategies, opportunities, and resources will naturally appear in your life. When your consciousness is aligned with scarcity, no strategy in the world will create lasting wealth for you. This doesn't mean that external action isn't important. Of course you need to take action. But when action comes from wealth consciousness rather than scarcity consciousness, it feels inspired rather than desperate, effortless rather than forced, exciting rather than overwhelming. You find yourself naturally attracted to the correct opportunities and naturally repelled by the wrong ones. You make better decisions because you're not operating from fear. You take more calculated risks because you're not afraid of losing what little you have. Here's what I want you to understand at the deepest level. You are not your circumstances. You are not your bank account. You are not your current financial situation. You are consciousness itself. And consciousness has the power to create any reality it assumes to be true. The money you want already exists. The wealth you desire is already yours in the quantum field of infinite possibilities. The only question is whether you're going to claim it or continue to reject it through limiting beliefs and scarcity consciousness. Every wealthy person started exactly where you are right now, as consciousness contemplating wealth. They didn't have the money first and then develop wealth consciousness. They developed wealth consciousness first and then the money followed. This is the sequence that creates lasting abundance. Consciousness first, then manifestation, not the other way around. Your current financial situation is not your financial identity. It's just where you happen to be right now based on the consciousness you've been operating from up until this point. But consciousness can change, which means your financial reality can change. And the beautiful thing is that when consciousness changes, reality changes quickly to match it. I've witnessed people transform their financial lives in weeks or months by simply shifting their consciousness around money. I've watched people attract unexpected income, new opportunities and financial windfalls by learning to operate from wealth consciousness rather than scarcity consciousness. And I've also witnessed people work incredibly hard for years without success because they never addressed the consciousness foundation that creates wealth. The universe is abundant. There is more than enough money, more than enough opportunities, more than enough resources for everyone to live in prosperity. The only limitation is in consciousness. When you release the limitations in your consciousness, you release the limitations in your financial reality. But transformation requires commitment. It requires you to be more committed to your vision of abundance than you are to your current story of limitation. It requires you to choose faith over fear, possibility over circumstance, assumption over hope. It requires you to trust the process even when you cannot see immediate results. Remember, consciousness is the cause and financial reality is the effect. When you change the cause, the effect must change. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And often the when is much sooner than you think possible. I want you to identify one limiting belief you've been carrying about money. Perhaps it's money doesn't grow on trees, or you must work hard for money. Or there's not enough to go around, or wealthy people are greedy, or I don't deserve wealth, or money is the root of all evil. Acknowledge it, because awareness is the first step to transformation. You cannot change what you're not aware of. Then rewrite that belief into an empowering assumption. Instead of money doesn't grow on trees, think money flows to me easily and naturally from multiple sources. Instead of I must work hard for money, think I create wealth through inspired action and joy. Instead of there's not enough, think I live in an abundant universe with unlimited resources. Instead of I don't deserve wealth, think I deserve all the abundance life has to offer. Start operating from wealth consciousness today. Don't wait for your circumstances to change. Don't wait for more money to appear. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start now in this moment with the decision to assume that abundance is your natural state. Your consciousness is the soil where your financial future grows. Make certain you're planting your money goals in fertile ground. Your wealth transformation doesn't start when your bank account changes. It starts when your consciousness changes. And that can happen right now, in this moment with this decision. The wealthy version of you already exists in the quantum field of infinite possibilities. That version is calling to you right now, inviting you to step into that reality. The question is, are you ready to answer that call? Are you ready to release the limitations that have kept you small? Are you ready to claim the abundance that is your birthright? Your new financial reality is waiting for you to claim it. The universe is ready to support your transformation. Wealth consciousness is ready to be activated in your life. The only question is, are you ready to step into wealth consciousness and become the abundant person you were always meant to be? This is your moment of choice. This is your invitation to transformation. This is your opportunity to step out of limitation and into limitless possibility. The choice is yours, and it starts with consciousness. Choose wealth, choose abundance, choose the unlimited financial potential that exists within you right now. Your journey to financial freedom begins here. Your transformation to wealth consciousness starts now. Thank you. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. Tonight I am going to reveal to you the fastest way to destroy doubt that I have ever discovered. Not manage it, not reduce it, but completely kill it in 30 seconds or less. You see, most people spend years battling doubt. They fight it, they struggle against it, they try to overcome it through positive thinking and affirmations. But doubt keeps returning, again and again, like an unwelcome guest who refuses to leave. Tonight, you will learn why doubt persists. And more importantly, you will learn the single technique that murders doubt instantly before it can take root in your consciousness. Are you ready? Then let us begin. First, let me show you what doubt really is. Most people misunderstand doubt completely. They think doubt is a natural response to uncertainty. They think doubt is reasonable, logical, even protective. But this is not true. Doubt is not a response to lack of evidence. Doubt is a response to divided consciousness. Let me explain. When you doubt, what are you really doing? You are holding two opposing realities in your mind simultaneously. You are saying, I have my desire, while simultaneously saying, I do not have my desire. You are affirming fulfillment, while denying fulfillment. You are trying to live in two states at once, and consciousness cannot exist in two states simultaneously. Consciousness must choose. When you try to hold both having and not having, consciousness defaults to the state that feels more real to you. And for most people, the current physical circumstances feel more real than the imagined desire. This is why doubt feels so powerful. It is not actually powerful. It is simply the result of being double-minded, of trying to face two directions at once. Now let me show you the mistake that keeps doubt alive in most people's minds. When doubt appears, most people try to fight it. They try to argue with it. They try to convince themselves it is wrong. They pile affirmations on top of it. They search for evidence to disprove it. They exhaust themselves battling this invisible enemy. But here is what you must understand. Every time you fight doubt, you are giving it reality. Every time you argue with it, you are acknowledging its existence. Every time you try to overcome it, you are admitting it has power over you. You cannot kill doubt by fighting it. Fighting doubt is like fighting your shadow. The more you struggle against it, the more real it becomes. So what is the answer? How do you kill doubt in 30 seconds? The answer is so simple that most people miss it entirely. You do not kill doubt by fighting it. You kill doubt by refusing to recognize its existence. Here's the technique, and I want you to memorize it exactly. The moment doubt appears in your mind, the instant you feel that familiar questioning, that wavering, that but what if this doesn't work, you stop. You do not engage with it. You do not argue with it. You do not try to overcome it. Instead, you immediately return to the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Not after you deal with the doubt. Not after you convince yourself it is wrong. Immediately. Within 30 seconds of doubt appearing, you redirect your entire attention back to the feeling of your desire already accomplished. Let me show you exactly how this works in practice. You are assuming you are wealthy. Suddenly doubt appears. But I have no money in my bank account right now. How can this work? Most people stop here. They engage with the doubt. They try to answer its question. They search for logical explanations. And in doing so, they give the doubt 30 minutes. 30 hours, 30 days to poison their consciousness. But you who are learning this technique, do something different. The instant that doubt appears, within 5 seconds, you catch it. And you say to yourself, calmly and firmly, I am not interested in that conversation. And immediately within the next 25 seconds, you return to your assumption. You feel the reality of being wealthy. You remember what it feels like to have abundance. You occupy the state of the wish fulfilled. You do not argue with the doubt. You do not try to disprove it. You simply refuse to give it your attention, and you immediately redirect that attention to the state you choose to occupy. This is how you kill doubt in 30 seconds. Not by fighting it, but by starving it of the only thing that keeps it alive, your attention. Now let me tell you why the timing is so critical. Doubt is like a seed. When it first appears in your mind, it is small and weak. It has no root. It has no power. It is just a passing thought. But if you give it your attention, if you engage with it, argue with it, try to resolve it, that seed begins to take root. Within 30 seconds of continuous attention, doubt begins to feel real. Within a few minutes, it feels like a legitimate problem. Within an hour, it feels like truth. This is why you must catch doubt immediately. The moment it appears, you have a small window, approximately 30 seconds, where it is still weak, still rootless, still easy to dismiss. If you return to your assumption within this window, the doubt dies. It never gets the chance to take root. It never gets the chance to feel real. It simply withers and disappears, because you gave it no soil to grow in. But if you wait, if you let doubt sit in your consciousness for minutes or hours, it becomes much harder to remove. Not impossible, but harder. This is why speed matters. This is why you must kill doubt the moment it appears. Here is how you train yourself in this technique. For the next 7 days, I want you to become a doubt hunter. Your job is not to eliminate doubt from appearing. That is impossible and unnecessary. Your job is to catch it the moment it appears and redirect within 30 seconds. Keep a simple mental count. When doubt appears, notice it. Say to yourself, there is doubt. Do not judge it. Do not fear it. Simply observe it. Then immediately, and I mean within 5 seconds, dismiss it. You can use any phrase that works for you, not interested. That's not my reality. I live from the end. I am not entertaining that thought. Then within the remaining 25 seconds, return completely to your assumption. Feel the wish fulfilled. Occupy the state. Make it so real that there is no room for anything else. At first, this will require conscious effort. Doubt will appear frequently, and you will have to catch it again and again. But this is good. Every time you catch doubt and redirect within 30 seconds, you are training your consciousness. You are building a new habit. After a few days of this practice, something remarkable happens. Doubt begins to appear less frequently, and when it does appear, it dissolves almost instantly, because your consciousness has learned that doubt gets no attention, no engagement, no reality in your world. A woman came to me who had been trying to manifest a relationship for 2 years. She said she believed in the law. She practiced her techniques daily. But nothing had manifested, and she was losing hope. I asked her what happened when she practiced her technique. She said, I imagine myself in a loving relationship. I feel how wonderful it is. But then doubt comes, and I spend the rest of the day trying to convince myself it will work, trying to find proof, trying to overcome my doubts. I said, there is your problem. You are spending 2 minutes in the state of the wish fulfilled and 2 hours in the state of doubt. Of course, nothing manifests. You are giving 98% of your attention to the wrong state. I taught her this 30-second technique. I said, for 1 week, your only job is to catch doubt within 30 seconds and return to your assumption. Do not try to overcome doubt. Do not try to resolve it. Just notice it and redirect immediately. She practiced this faithfully, and within 3 days she noticed something astonishing. Her overall feeling about the desire completely changed. She stopped feeling anxious and desperate. She stopped questioning whether it would work. Not because she convinced herself, but because she stopped giving doubt the attention it needed to feel real. Within 2 weeks, she met someone who became exactly the partner she had imagined. But more importantly, she learned something that would serve her for the rest of her life. Doubt has no power except the power you give it through your attention. Let me tell you something profound. Doubt and faith are not opposites. They are the same thing pointed in different directions. Both doubt and faith are forms of assumption. When you doubt, you are assuming something negative will happen. When you have faith, you are assuming something positive will happen. Both are assumptions about the future. Both are creative. Both manifest. The question is not whether you will assume. You are always assuming something. The question is, which assumption will you give your attention to? When you practice the 30-second technique, you are not building faith by destroying doubt. You are simply choosing which assumption to feed with your attention. Doubt appears, redirect within 30 seconds to the wish fulfilled. Doubt appears again, redirect within 30 seconds. Again and again, every single time, without exception. This is not suppression. Suppression is pushing something down while still giving it energy. This is replacement. You are replacing one assumption with another so quickly that the unwanted assumption never gets the chance to take root. Now let me reveal to you what happens when you practice this technique consistently. After some time, it varies for each person, but usually within 2 to 4 weeks, something permanent shifts. Doubt stops appearing frequently, and when it does appear, it dissolves so quickly that you barely notice it. Your consciousness has been retrained. It has learned that the assumption of the wish fulfilled is the only reality you acknowledge. This is not about becoming delusional or ignoring reality. This is about understanding that there are infinite possible realities, and the one you give your sustained attention to is the one that becomes your experienced reality. When doubt appears and you immediately return to your assumption within 30 seconds, you are making a choice. You are saying, this is the reality I choose to occupy. This is the assumption I choose to make real through my attention. And when you make this choice consistently, doubt loses its power completely. It becomes like background noise that you no longer hear. Your consciousness becomes so firmly established in the state of the wish fulfilled that nothing can shake it. So here is what I want you to do. Starting this very moment, choose one desire, just one, that you are working to manifest. It could be anything. Money, love, health, success, anything your heart desires. Now make a firm decision. For the next 7 days, you are going to practice the 30-second rule with absolute commitment. Every single time doubt appears regarding this desire, you will catch it within 5 seconds and redirect to your assumption within the remaining 25 seconds. No exceptions, no negotiations. No, but this doubt seems reasonable, or but I need to figure this out first. Every doubt, every time, immediate redirect within 30 seconds. This is your only job. Not to manifest your desire, not to figure out how it will happen, not to look for signs, just to catch doubt and redirect within 30 seconds. Do this faithfully for 7 days, and you will discover something extraordinary. Doubt will lose its grip on you. The assumption of your wish fulfilled will become natural, effortless, automatic. And when doubt no longer occupies your consciousness, when your entire attention is on the wish fulfilled, manifestation becomes inevitable. The bridge of incidents builds itself. The circumstances rearrange themselves. Your desire appears in your world, because it has become the only reality you acknowledge in your consciousness. Let me leave you with this final truth. Doubt is not your enemy. It is simply misplaced attention. When you learn to redirect that attention immediately, doubt dies. Not because you fought it, but because you stopped feeding it. Kill doubt by ignoring it. Starve it of your attention, and feed your assumption of the wish fulfilled with every ounce of consciousness you possess. 30 seconds, that is all it takes. Catch the doubt, dismiss it, and return to the wish fulfilled. It takes 30 seconds to kill doubt forever. From this moment forward, you have a new rule. Doubt gets 30 seconds or less. If it appears, it dies within 30 seconds through your immediate return to the state of the wish fulfilled. This is the technique. This is how you kill doubt instantly, how you become unmovable in your assumption. Practice this, and watch as doubt disappears from your consciousness. And when doubt disappears, manifestation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Thank you and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my cherished friends. Tonight I want to share with you what might be the most practical yet revolutionary principle I have ever discovered about manifestation. It's a concept so simple that you'll understand it immediately, yet so powerful that it will transform every desire you've ever held, and every dream you've ever dared to dream. Imagine for a moment that you're standing outside a magnificent mansion, looking through the windows at the beautiful life happening inside. You can see the elegant furnishings, the warmth of the fireplace, the joy of the family gathered around the dinner table. You admire it, you want it, you think about how wonderful it would be to live there. But you remain outside, separated by the glass, observing someone else's life. Now imagine instead that you're sitting in that very mansion, feeling the warmth of the fire on your skin, tasting the delicious meal, laughing with your loved ones around that same table. You're not thinking about the beautiful life, you're living it from the inside. This, my friends, is the difference between thinking about your desires and thinking from your desires. And tonight I'm going to show you that this distinction isn't just poetic. It's the very mechanism by which consciousness creates reality. There's a secret hidden in the way successful people naturally think. A pattern that unsuccessful people consistently miss. It's not what they think about, it's where they think from. Tonight I'm going to reveal this secret and show you how to shift from thinking about your desires to thinking from your desires. a shift that will collapse time, eliminate struggle, and make manifestation as natural as breathing. The revelation that changed my understanding forever came through observing a remarkable woman who seemed to manifest everything she desired with effortless ease. While others struggled and strained to attract their good, she simply lived as if all her dreams were already fulfilled. When I asked her the secret of her success, she said something that initially puzzled me, but later revolutionized my entire approach to teaching consciousness. She said, "Neville, I don't think about being wealthy. I think from wealth. I don't think about being loved. I think from love. I don't think about being successful. I think from success. Most people exhaust themselves thinking about what they want. I rest in thinking from what I am." At first, this seemed like mere wordplay. But as I pondered her statement, I began to understand the profound difference between these two orientations of mind. When you think about something, you position yourself as separate from it, observing it from a distance. When you think from something, you position yourself as one with it, experiencing it from the inside. Let me illustrate this with a simple example. When you think about being in Paris, you imagine yourself there from your current location. You see pictures of the Eiffel Tower. You plan your trip, you anticipate the experience. But when you think from being in Paris, you feel the cobblestones beneath your feet. You smell the cafe aromas. You hear the French conversations around you. You're not imagining Paris. You're experiencing Paris from within Paris. This distinction, thinking about versus thinking from, is the difference between wanting and having, between hoping and knowing, between seeking and finding. After my conversation with this wise woman, I began to observe how people approached their desires. I noticed that those who struggled with manifestation were consistently thinking about their goals, analyzing them, planning for them, working toward them, but always from the position of not having them. Meanwhile, those who manifested easily were thinking from their fulfilled desires, making decisions from that consciousness, feeling from that reality, living from that assumption. A young man came to see me who had been unsuccessfully trying to manifest financial abundance for 2 years. He said, "Neville, I think about money constantly. I think about how much I need, how I could earn it, what I would do with it, how different my life would be if I had it. But the more I think about money, the more absent it seems to become." I said to him, "You have just identified the source of your struggle. You are thinking about money from the consciousness of not having money. But consciousness cannot create what it is thinking about. It can only create what it is thinking from. You must learn to think from abundance rather than about abundance." "But how can I think from having money when I clearly don't have it?" he asked. I explained, money is not paper and coins. Money is a state of consciousness. Abundance is not a bank balance. Abundance is a way of being. When you think from abundance, you make decisions as an abundant person would make them. You feel as an abundant person would feel. You assume as an abundant person would assume. The external money becomes a natural expression of the internal abundance. I taught this young man to shift his entire mental orientation. Instead of thinking about money from the consciousness of lack, he learned to think from money, to think as money would think if money were conscious. I said to him, "When you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to feel the deep security that comes from knowing your bills are easily paid. Feel the calm confidence of someone whose bank account never causes anxiety. When you walk into a store, feel the freedom of someone who can buy what they truly desire without checking the price. When making decisions, ask yourself, what would someone with abundant resources choose here? Don't think about having money. Inhabit the emotional state of someone for whom money flows naturally and consistently." He began to feel abundant before he had the external evidence. Instead of feeling stressed about bills, he practiced feeling the relief of someone whose finances were handled. Instead of feeling restricted by his budget, he practiced feeling the expansiveness of someone with financial freedom. Instead of making decisions from financial fear, he began making decisions from financial confidence. The change was remarkable. Within months, opportunities began appearing that he had never seen before. Business ventures that had been struggling suddenly flourished. People began offering him financial partnerships and investment opportunities. His external reality shifted to match his internal shift from thinking about abundance to thinking from abundance. But this principle extends far beyond financial manifestation. It applies to every area of life: health, relationships, career, creativity, spiritual development. The question is always the same. Are you thinking about your desire or thinking from your desire? Let me share with you the story of a woman who had been battling illness for years. She came to me exhausted from fighting her condition. "Neville," she said, "I think about being healthy all the time. I research treatments. I visualize my body healing. I affirm my wellness, but I still feel sick. What am I doing wrong?" I observed that while she was thinking about health, she was thinking about it from the consciousness of sickness. Her thoughts about health were actually reinforcing her identity as a sick person who wanted to be well. Instead of thinking about health, I suggested, begin thinking from health. I want you to wake up each morning and feel the vitality coursing through your body, not as hope for the future, but as present reality. Feel the strength in your muscles, the clarity in your mind, the energy that wants to express through movement and activity. When you eat, taste your food with the appreciation of someone whose body processes nutrition perfectly. When you exercise, feel the joy of a body that loves to move and is naturally strong. When making health decisions, ask yourself, what would someone in perfect health naturally choose? Don't monitor your symptoms from sickness. Experience your body from wellness. This woman learned to inhabit the consciousness of perfect health. Instead of checking how she felt each morning with the anxiety of someone who expected problems, she began feeling into her body with the gratitude of someone experiencing vitality. Instead of eating foods while worried about their effects, she began enjoying meals with the confidence of someone whose body thrived. Instead of resting from exhaustion, she began resting from satisfaction with a body that worked beautifully. The transformation was profound. Not only did her physical condition improve dramatically, but her entire relationship with her body changed. She stopped experiencing herself as someone fighting illness and began experiencing herself as someone expressing health. The healing felt natural rather than miraculous because she was thinking from health rather than about health. This brings us to one of the most crucial distinctions in all of consciousness work: the difference between the consciousness that seeks and the consciousness that finds, the consciousness that wants and the consciousness that has, the consciousness that becomes and the consciousness that is. When you think about your desires, you automatically position yourself in the consciousness of seeking, wanting, and becoming. When you think from your desires, you automatically position yourself in the consciousness of finding, having, and being. Most people spend their entire lives thinking about what they want, from the consciousness of not having it. They think about love from loneliness, about success from failure, about health from sickness, about abundance from lack. Then they wonder why their thinking doesn't produce the results they seek. But consciousness cannot transcend itself through thinking. A consciousness of lack cannot think its way into abundance. A consciousness of loneliness cannot think its way into love. A consciousness of sickness cannot think its way into health. You must shift the consciousness from which you think. I remember a businessman who had been struggling to grow his company for years. He said, "Neville, I think about success constantly. I study successful companies. I read business books. I analyze market trends, but my business remains stuck. I can't understand why all this thinking about success isn't creating success." I said to him, "You are thinking about success from the consciousness of struggle, but success cannot be thought into existence from struggle. It can only be expressed from the consciousness that already embodies success." I taught this man to shift from thinking about his business succeeding to thinking from his business being successful, Tomorrow morning, I said, I want you to walk into your office feeling the quiet confidence of a leader whose company is thriving. Feel the satisfaction of someone whose vision is already manifesting beautifully. When employees approach you with problems, receive them with the calm assurance of someone who knows that solutions flow naturally through successful enterprises. When making strategic decisions, feel into the wisdom of someone who has already built what you're building. Instead of hoping your next quarter will be profitable, feel the deep knowing of someone whose success is already established. Instead of analyzing why his company wasn't growing from a consciousness of struggle, he began to make decisions from the consciousness of a leader whose company was naturally expanding. Instead of studying other successful businesses from the outside, he began to think as the successful businessman he already was in consciousness. When challenges arose, instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt the calm resourcefulness of someone for whom problems were simply opportunities for creative solutions. The shift was immediate and dramatic. His decision-making became more confident and strategic. His leadership style naturally evolved. His vision for the company expanded. And as his consciousness shifted, his business reality shifted to match. Within 18 months. His company had achieved the success he had been thinking about for years. This principle also reveals why so many people struggle with relationships. They think about love from loneliness, about partnership from separation, about connection from isolation. They spend their mental energy analyzing why they don't have love instead of experiencing the love they are. A wonderful example of this came through a woman who had been single for many years. She said, Neville, I think about my ideal relationship constantly. I imagine the perfect partner. I visualize romantic scenarios. I affirm that love is coming to me. But I remain alone. Why isn't my thinking about love creating love in my life? I explained to her that thinking about love from loneliness actually reinforces loneliness. Instead of thinking about being loved, I suggested begin thinking from being loved. Tomorrow I want you to wake up with the warm glow of someone who knows she is cherished beyond measure. Feel the gentle smile that comes from knowing you are someone's greatest treasure. When you move through your day, carry the graceful confidence of a woman who has never doubted her worth because she feels it reflected in loving eyes. When you meet new people, greet them with the open warmth of someone who has love to give because she is already so full of love. When making choices about your evening or weekend, ask yourself, what would a deeply beloved woman naturally choose to do? Feel the security, the joy, the natural radiance of someone whose heart is completely fulfilled. This woman learned to inhabit the consciousness of being deeply loved. Instead of going to social events hoping to meet someone, she attended them with the contentment of someone whose heart was already full. Instead of analyzing every interaction for signs of romantic potential, she simply enjoyed connecting with people from a place of abundance rather than need. The results were beautiful. Within months, she met a man who was also thinking from love rather than about love. Their connection was natural and immediate because both were operating from the consciousness of love rather than the consciousness of seeking love. But perhaps the most profound application of this principle is in the area of spiritual development and self-realization. Most seekers spend years thinking about enlightenment, about consciousness, about their spiritual goals. But enlightenment cannot be achieved by thinking about it. It can only be recognized by thinking from it. This is why Jesus said, I and my Father are one. He wasn't thinking about being divine. He was thinking from divinity. He wasn't seeking God. He was expressing God. He wasn't becoming spiritual. He was being spirit. When you think about your spiritual nature, you reinforce the illusion of separation between yourself and the divine. When you think from your spiritual nature, you recognize the truth of your eternal oneness with all that is. I knew a man who had been a spiritual seeker for decades, studying every teaching, attending every workshop, seeking every experience that promised enlightenment. He came to me frustrated and exhausted. Neville, he said, I've been thinking about God, consciousness, and truth for 30 years. I've analyzed every scripture, meditated for thousands of hours, and practiced every technique. But I still feel separate from the divine. What am I missing? I said to him, you are thinking about God from the consciousness of separation. But God cannot be found through thinking. God can only be expressed through being. Stop thinking about your divine nature and start thinking from divinity. This man learned to shift from seeking the divine to expressing the divine. Instead of thinking about consciousness, he began thinking as consciousness. Instead of trying to become spiritual, he began being the spirit he had always been. The transformation was immediate and lasting. He stopped seeking and started being. He stopped questioning and started knowing. He stopped trying to become enlightened and started expressing the enlightenment he had always been. Now you might wonder, how do you make this shift from thinking about to thinking from? How do you inhabit a consciousness you don't yet feel you possess? The secret lies in understanding that consciousness is not something you acquire, it's something you recognize. You don't need to become abundant to think from abundance. You need to recognize the abundance you already are. You don't need to become healthy to think from health. You need to acknowledge the perfect health that is your true nature. Every state of consciousness already exists within you. Your job is not to create these states, but to choose which state to think from. When you choose to think from love, you activate the love consciousness that has always been within you. When you choose to think from success, you activate the success consciousness that is your birthright. The practice is simple but requires consistency. Throughout your day, catch yourself thinking about your desires and consciously shift to thinking from them. When you notice yourself thinking about having money, shift to thinking from having money. When you catch yourself thinking about being healthy, shift to thinking from being healthy. Feel the difference in your energy, your emotions, your entire sense of self. Notice how thinking from your desires feels natural, peaceful, and empowering, while thinking about your desires feels effortful, anxious, and draining. But remember, this is not a mental technique. It's a recognition of truth. You are not pretending to be something you're not. You are remembering something you've always been. You are not creating a false identity. You are uncovering your true identity. When you think from love, you're not pretending to be loving. You're expressing the love you are. When you think from abundance, you're not faking prosperity. You're revealing the abundance that is your nature. When you think from health, you're not denying illness. You're affirming the wholeness that is your essence. So tonight I invite you to examine your mental habits. Notice where you've been thinking about your desires instead of from them. Observe how this creates a sense of separation between yourself and your good. Then begin to practice the art of thinking from. Choose one desire that is important to you and spend the next week thinking from its fulfillment rather than about its achievement. Notice how this shifts your energy, your actions, and your experience. Remember, consciousness cannot create what it thinks about, it can only express what it thinks from. You are not here to think your way to your desires. You are here to recognize that you are already what you desire. Think from love, and love expresses through you. Think from abundance, and abundance flows as you. Think from health, and health radiates from you. Think from success, and success becomes your natural expression. The secret is not in thinking harder about what you want. It's in thinking from what you are. Stop thinking about your dreams and start thinking from your dreams. Stop thinking about your potential and start thinking from your reality. You are not becoming what you desire. You are recognizing what you have always been. Think from this truth, and watch as your entire world transforms to reflect the consciousness you truly are. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.
Hello and welcome to Best of Lectures YouTube channel. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. My name is Ari, and I am the founder of this channel, dedicated to bringing you cozy animated lectures and teachings on topics like manifestation, money and wealth creation, the law of attraction, and so much more. If you're someone who is looking to unlock your full potential, attract abundance into your life, and create the reality you've been always dreamed of, then you're in the right place. I truly believe that we have the ability to create the life of our dreams through our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions. Whether you are looking to attract more money, meaningful relationships, manifest your dream job, or simply improve your mindset and overall well-being, this channel is for you. I promise to provide you with valuable content that will inspire, motivate, and empower you to take control of your life and create the abundance you deserve. So if you're ready to take the next step towards living your best life, hit that subscribe button and join our community of like-minded people who are committed to creating the life of their dreams. Together we can learn, grow, and create a life filled with success and fulfillment. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Remember, the power to manifest is within you. Let's make magic happen together.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to imagine for a moment that you are living in a house with many floors. But you spent your entire life in the basement. The basement is dimly lit, cramped, and filled with the echoes of problems. You can hear activity on the floors above, laughter, music, the sounds of celebration. But you believe these upper floors are fantasies, unreachable dreams, impossible realities. What if I told you tonight that you are indeed living in such a house, and that most of humanity has mistaken the basement for the entire building? What if I told you that there are dimensions of reality so magnificent, so abundant, so perfect, that they would seem like heaven itself to someone trapped in the basement of ordinary consciousness? Tonight I want to take you on a journey through the floors of this cosmic house. I want to show you the three primary dimensions of existence that you move through every day, often without knowing it. I want to reveal to you the 3D world of effects, the 4D world of causation, and the 5D world of pure being. And most importantly, I want to teach you how to consciously ascend from one to another until you live primarily in the penthouse of divine consciousness. Just yesterday, a woman came to me in tears. She said, "Neville, I've been studying these teachings for 5 years. I understand them intellectually, but my life hasn't changed. I still struggle with money, my health is deteriorating, and my relationships are a mess. What am I doing wrong?" I looked at this sincere seeker and immediately recognized her problem. I said, "My dear, you're trying to solve 3D problems with 3D thinking. You're attempting to rearrange the furniture in the basement instead of moving to a higher floor. You haven't truly understood that there are dimensions of reality where your problems simply don't exist." She looked confused. So I continued. Right now you're living primarily in what I call the 3D world, the world of physical effects, material circumstances, and apparent limitations. But there exists a 4D world, the world of imagination and assumption, where you can consciously create the causes that will reshape your 3D experience. And beyond that lies the 5D world, the realm of pure being, where you exist as the very consciousness in which all realities are possible. "But how do I access these other dimensions?" she asked. "By understanding that you're not trying to go somewhere else," I replied. "You're trying to realize where you already are. These dimensions aren't different places. They're different levels of consciousness, different ways of being aware. And consciousness can shift between them as easily as you can choose to focus on sounds in different rooms of your house." This woman learned to distinguish between these dimensions of reality. And within 3 months her entire life had transformed. Not because she changed anything in the 3D world directly, but because she learned to live primarily from the higher dimensions where transformation is natural and effortless. Let me explain these 3 worlds to you in detail, because understanding them will revolutionize not just your manifestation abilities, but your entire experience of existence. The 3D world is what most people consider to be the only reality. It's the world you perceive with your 5 physical senses, what you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. It's the world of solid objects, linear time, cause and effect as understood by physics, and apparent limitation. In the 3D world, if you want more money, you must work harder or find better opportunities. If you want better health, you must exercise more or take medicine. If you want love, you must find the right person and convince them to care about you. Everything requires physical action, external cooperation, and often struggle against resistant circumstances. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in 3D consciousness, believing that this physical reality is the ultimate authority. They let their bank account determine how abundant they feel. They let their body determine how healthy they feel. They let other people's behavior determine how loved they feel. They are completely at the mercy of external conditions because they don't realize there are higher dimensions from which these conditions can be consciously created. Here's what they don't understand. The 3D world is not the cause of anything. It's purely a world of effects. Everything you see in the 3D world is the result of activity in higher dimensions. The 3D world is like the screen in a movie theater. It displays images, but it doesn't create them. The creation happens in the projection booth of consciousness. Now, the 4D world is the realm of imagination, assumption, and mental causation. This is where the real creative work happens. In the 4D world, you're not limited by physical laws or external circumstances. Here, you can be anywhere, be anyone, have anything, experience everything. Time and space become fluid. Limitations dissolve. Impossibilities become possibilities. Most people glimpse the 4D world in dreams, daydreams, and moments of deep imagination. But they dismiss these experiences as just fantasy. They don't realize that the 4D world is actually more real than the 3D world because it's the dimension where all 3D experiences are created. When you consciously enter the 4D world through imagination, you're not escaping from reality. You're entering the workshop of reality. Every assumption you make in the 4D world, every scene you imagine, every feeling you generate becomes a cause that must produce corresponding effects in the 3D world. But here's the crucial point. Most people use their 4D faculties unconsciously. They imagine what they don't want, assume the worst about their situations, and feel the reality of their limitations. Then they wonder why their 3D world reflects struggle and lack. Let me tell you about a man who learned to use the 4D world consciously. He was a construction worker who had been injured on the job and told he would never work again. His workers' compensation was minimal. His savings were depleted, and his future looked hopeless from a 3D perspective. But this man understood something profound. He realized that in the 4D world of imagination, he could be completely healed, financially secure, and living his ideal life right now. So every day, he would consciously enter the 4D realm and experience himself as perfectly healthy and abundantly prosperous. In his imagination, he didn't just see himself healed. He felt the strength in his body, the confidence in his movement, the joy of physical vitality. He didn't just visualize wealth. He experienced the security, the freedom, the peace of mind that abundance brings. He made these 4D experiences so vivid and real that they became more compelling than his 3D circumstances. His doctors thought he was delusional. His family worried about his denial of reality. But he knew something they didn't know. He was creating his new reality in the dimension where all realities are born. Within a year, his body had healed in ways that medical science couldn't explain. Within 2 years, he had discovered a talent for real estate investment that made him wealthier than he had ever been as a construction worker. The 4D experiences he had been having in imagination manifested perfectly in his 3D world. Now, beyond both the 3D and 4D worlds lies what I call the 5D world, the dimension of pure being, the I Am consciousness. Your true identity is God experiencing itself as individual awareness. In the 5D world, you're not trying to get anything or become anything because you already are everything. You're not healing yourself because there's nothing wrong with you. You're not manifesting abundance because you are abundance itself. You're not seeking love because you are love expressing as individual consciousness. The 5D world is the realm of pure potential, infinite possibility, and absolute freedom. It's where you exist as the formless awareness in which all forms appear. It's your true home, your original nature, your deepest identity. Most people only glimpse the 5D world in moments of deep meditation, profound love, creative inspiration, or mystical experience. But it's actually the foundation of your being, the ground from which both your 4D imagination and your 3D experience arise. Here's the revolutionary secret. When you learn to live primarily from the 5D consciousness of pure being, both the 4D world of imagination and the 3D world of manifestation become effortless. You're no longer trying to create from limitation. You're expressing from infinite fullness. Let me share a story that illustrates what it means to live from 5D consciousness. A woman came to me who had been battling a serious illness for 7 years. She had tried every medical treatment, every alternative therapy, every manifestation technique. Sometimes she would improve temporarily, but the illness always returned. I said to her, "You're trying to heal yourself from the 4D world of imagination, which is good, but you're still operating from the assumption that you are a person who has an illness. You're trying to imagine yourself becoming healthy instead of recognizing that you are health itself expressing as individual consciousness." She didn't understand, so I explained. In the 5D world of pure being, illness is impossible, because there's nothing separate from perfect wholeness. You're not a body that has consciousness. You're consciousness that appears to have a body. When you truly know yourself as pure consciousness, the body has no choice but to reflect that perfection. I taught her to move beyond visualizing health and into being health itself, not imagining herself as a healthy person, but recognizing herself as the very consciousness in which the concept of health and illness appear as temporary experiences. This woman learned to identify primarily with her 5D nature as pure, perfect, eternal consciousness. From this identity, she didn't try to heal her body, she simply expressed her true nature, and her body naturally reflected that expression. Within 6 months, every trace of her illness had disappeared. Not through medical intervention, not through 4D visualization, but through 5D recognition of her true nature as perfect consciousness expressing perfectly. Now you might be wondering, how do these 3 dimensions relate to each other? How do you consciously move between them? Think of it this way. The 5D world is like the sun, pure, eternal, unchanging consciousness. The 4D world is like the atmosphere, where consciousness takes on the forms of thoughts, feelings, and imagined experiences. The 3D world is like the earth, where these atmospheric conditions manifest as physical experiences. When you're living primarily from 3D consciousness, you're like someone who only looks at the ground and wonders why it's sometimes sunny and sometimes cloudy. You see effects but not causes. You experience results but don't understand how they're created. When you develop 4D consciousness, you learn to look up and see the atmospheric conditions that create the weather of your experience. You realize you can influence these conditions through imagination and assumption. But when you awaken to 5D consciousness, you realize you are the sun itself, the pure awareness that illuminates all atmospheric conditions and all earthly experiences without being limited by any of them. The secret of conscious creation is learning to operate primarily from the 5D world of pure being, using the 4D world of imagination as your creative medium, and allowing the 3D world to naturally reflect your inner state. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Suppose you desire more money. From 3D consciousness, you focus on getting money through external means, working harder, finding new opportunities, cutting expenses. This often involves struggle, because you're trying to create the cause from the level of effects. From 4D consciousness, you imagine having money, feel the reality of abundance, and assume prosperity is yours. This is much more effective because you're working from the level of causation rather than effects. But from 5D consciousness, you recognize that you are the very abundance you seek. Money becomes not something you need to get, but something you naturally express as consciousness experiencing itself as abundance. The feeling of lack becomes impossible, because you know yourself as the inexhaustible source of all supply. I knew a businessman who mastered this progression. When his company was failing, he initially tried to save it through 3D actions: cutting costs, working longer hours, desperately seeking new clients. These efforts only seemed to make things worse. Then he shifted to 4D consciousness and began imagining his business thriving. He visualized success, felt the reality of prosperity, and assumed his company was valuable and profitable. This helped, and he began to see some improvement. But the real transformation came when he accessed 5D consciousness and recognized himself as the very creativity and abundance that his business was meant to express. He stopped trying to save his business and started being the consciousness that creates successful businesses. From this 5D awareness, innovative ideas flowed effortlessly. Perfect opportunities appeared without struggle. The right people came into his life naturally. His business didn't just recover, it became more successful than he had ever imagined possible. But now the success felt natural and effortless, because it was arising from his true nature, rather than from desperate effort. Understanding these three dimensions also explains why some people manifest quickly while others struggle for years with the same desires. Those who manifest quickly are naturally accessing higher dimensions of consciousness. Those who struggle are trying to create from the 3D level of effects. It also explains why some manifestations feel forced and temporary, while others feel natural and permanent. When you create from 3D consciousness, you often have to maintain constant effort to keep your manifestations from dissolving. When you create from 4D consciousness, your manifestations are more stable but may still fluctuate with your mental state. But when you create from 5D consciousness, your manifestations feel natural and permanent because they're expressions of your true nature rather than acquisitions added to your identity. Now, how do you practically develop consciousness of these higher dimensions? How do you learn to live primarily from 4D and 5D awareness rather than being trapped in 3D limitation? First, you must develop what I call dimensional awareness. Throughout your day, ask yourself, which dimension am I operating from right now? Am I reacting to 3D appearances? Am I consciously using my 4D imagination? Am I aware of my 5D nature as pure consciousness? Most people are unconscious of which dimension they're operating from. They slip between dimensions randomly, creating chaotic and inconsistent results in their lives. But when you become conscious of these levels, you can choose to operate from the dimension that serves your highest good. Second, you must practice dimensional shifting. When you catch yourself trapped in 3D consciousness, worried about circumstances, reacting to appearances, feeling limited by external conditions, consciously shift to a higher dimension. Move from 3D to 4D by engaging your imagination. Instead of focusing on what appears to be wrong, imagine what you want to experience. Feel it, see it, hear it in your mind until it becomes more real than your current circumstances. Move from 4D to 5D by recognizing your true nature. Instead of trying to imagine yourself having or becoming something, recognize that you are the consciousness in which all having and becoming takes place. Rest in the awareness of your own being. Third, you must cultivate what I call dimensional loyalty. Make a commitment to live primarily from the highest dimension you can access. When 3D appearances try to pull you down into reactive consciousness, remain loyal to your 4D vision or your 5D awareness. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of this work, because the 3D world is constantly demanding your attention and reaction. But every time you choose to respond from a higher dimension rather than react from 3D consciousness, you strengthen your ability to live from elevated awareness. Let me share one final story that illustrates the power of living from multiple dimensions simultaneously. A young woman came to me who wanted to be a professional singer, but had been rejected by every record label and talent agency she approached. From a 3D perspective, her dream seemed impossible. But I taught her to operate from all three dimensions consciously. In the 3D world, she continued to practice her craft, perform at small venues, and take practical steps to improve her skills. But she didn't rely solely on 3D actions. In the 4D world, she spent time every day imagining herself as a successful recording artist. She felt the reality of performing on big stages, signing autographs and hearing her songs on the radio. She made these imaginal experiences so vivid that they became more compelling than her current circumstances. But most importantly, she accessed 5D consciousness and recognized herself as the very creativity and artistic expression she was trying to manifest. She stopped trying to become a successful singer and started being the consciousness that expresses through music. From this 5D awareness, she realized that her value as an artist wasn't dependent on external recognition or commercial success. She was already the perfect expression of musical consciousness, whether anyone else recognized it or not. This shift in consciousness changed everything. Her performances became more authentic and powerful because she was expressing her true nature rather than trying to get something. Her music became more original and inspired because it was flowing from source consciousness rather than imitative effort. Within 18 months, she was discovered by a producer who was drawn to the unique quality of presence she brought to her music. She was signed to a major label not because she had finally convinced someone of her worth, but because she had become so authentic an expression of her true nature that her talent was undeniable. You see, when you learn to operate from all three dimensions consciously, miracles become natural. The 3D world becomes not a prison but a playground. The 4D world becomes not an escape but a workshop. The 5D world becomes not a distant goal but your recognized reality. So tonight I want you to begin exploring these dimensions of your own consciousness. Notice where you typically operate from. Practice shifting between levels of awareness. Begin to identify primarily with your 5D nature as pure consciousness while using your 4D imagination to create and allowing your 3D world to reflect your inner state. Remember, you're not trying to escape the 3D world. You're trying to master it by operating from higher dimensions. You're not trying to live only in imagination. You're trying to use imagination consciously to create better physical experiences. You're not trying to disappear into pure being. You're trying to recognize pure being as the foundation from which you can create and experience anything. The 3D world is your canvas, the 4D world is your paintbrush, and the 5D world is the artist. When you know yourself as the artist, the painting becomes a joy rather than a struggle. You are multidimensional beings temporarily focused on one level of experience. Expand your awareness. Claim your full heritage as consciousness itself expressing through multiple dimensions simultaneously. The basement of 3D limitation is not your home. The creative workshop of 4D imagination is available to you. The penthouse of 5D pure being is your true residence. Which floor will you choose to live on? The choice is yours, and the choice determines everything about your experience of life. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Your world is but a mirror reflecting back to you the state of your consciousness. If you wish to experience the life of the wealthy, you must first assume the consciousness of wealth not as a dream, not as something distant, but as your present reality. To act rich is not to mimic the habits of the wealthy. It is to dwell in the feeling of abundance so completely that your outer world has no choice but to conform. The mind conditioned by lack will always seek evidence of limitation, counting what is missing, fearing what is uncertain. But one who knows the truth walks in a different way. Wealthy people are not burdened by thoughts of scarcity. They move with certainty not because they wait for proof, but because they carry within them an unshakable knowing. They do not chase money. They believe it flows to them effortlessly. It is this inner conviction that bends reality in their favor. Look at your daily actions, your thoughts, your words. Are they aligned with the wealth you claim to desire? One who knows their fortune does not speak of how hard life is, how expensive things are, how impossible it seems. They speak from abundance, not towards it. They expect the finest not because they demand it, but because it is natural for them to receive. There is no effort in this, no need to force, no need to struggle. The way you see yourself determines the way the world sees you. If you carry yourself as one who lacks, your reality will reflect lack. If you carry yourself as one who already possesses, all things will rearrange themselves to match that assumption. Change does not come from working harder, from grasping at more, from waiting for something external to shift. It comes from dwelling persistently in the feeling of already having. Spend time in the silence of your mind, constructing the life you desire in vivid detail, not as a wish, but as a certainty. Feel the weight of luxury in your hands. Hear the sounds of wealth around you. Move through the world as one who has arrived. The moment you accept this as your truth, your world must bend to it. Wealth is not something outside of you, waiting to be attained. It is a state of mind, a feeling, a knowing that exists within you right now. To assume the consciousness of wealth means to think, feel, and move through the world as if you are already rich, as if abundance is your natural state. This is not about pretending or playing a role. It is about a deep inner shift, a transformation of your awareness that alters the reality you experience. Most people believe that wealth is something to be earned, struggled for, or obtained through external means. They place it outside of themselves, thinking that if only they worked harder, found the right opportunity, or met the right people, then they would become wealthy. But this is an illusion. The truth is that the world you experience is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. What you hold as true within yourself is what materializes in your life. If you see yourself as someone who lacks, if you feel the weight of limitation, then your world will mirror that back to you. If, however, you shift your awareness to one of wealth, if you truly believe and feel that you are already abundant, then reality has no choice but to conform. This is not about wishful thinking. It is not about looking at your bank account, seeing emptiness, and saying, "I am rich," while feeling nothing but doubt. It is about embodying the feeling of wealth so completely that you no longer seek evidence of it outside of you. You do not need the world to confirm it first. You confirm it within yourself, and then the world reshapes itself accordingly. Look at those who are truly wealthy, those for whom abundance is effortless. Their actions, their words, their very presence communicate a deep sense of certainty. They do not hesitate when opportunities arise. They do not speak of lack or struggle. They do not worry about how things will come to them. They simply know that they will. This is not because they were born into privilege or had some special advantage. It is because they have conditioned their minds to accept wealth as their reality. To assume the consciousness of wealth, you must train yourself to think as the wealthy think, to feel as they feel. This begins with awareness. Notice your habitual thoughts about money, abundance, and success. Do you see money as something hard to earn? Do you believe that wealth is reserved for others but not for you? Do you feel tension or fear when you think about financial matters? These beliefs are shaping your reality. If you wish to change your experience, you must change the way you think and feel. Start by immersing yourself in the feeling of already having what you desire. Close your eyes and imagine a life of unlimited abundance. See yourself moving through the world with ease, never questioning whether you can afford something, never feeling restricted. How does it feel to know that money flows to you effortlessly? How does it feel to be completely free from financial worry? Dwell in this state as often as you can until it becomes second nature. This is not about living in denial of your current circumstances. It is about shifting your inner reality so that your outer world must follow. The mistake most people make is waiting for proof before they believe. They say, "I will feel wealthy once I have money," but it does not work this way. The feeling must come first. You must act, think, and feel like a rich person before the evidence appears. It is not the money that makes one wealthy. It is the consciousness of wealth that attracts the money. Observe the way the wealthy carry themselves. They walk with confidence, not because they have money, but because they know they belong in the world of abundance. They do not hesitate when making financial decisions, not because they never experience loss, but because they trust in their ability to create more. They do not live in fear of running out, because their internal state tells them that there is always more. This is the essence of the consciousness of wealth. To cultivate this mindset, begin by shifting your language. Eliminate words of lack from your vocabulary. Do not speak of things being too expensive. Do not say, "I cannot afford that," or "money is hard to come by." These words reinforce a consciousness of lack. Instead, speak as one who always has enough. Even if your external reality has not yet shifted, discipline yourself to speak from abundance. When faced with a financial decision, instead of saying, "I don't have enough," say, "I choose to spend my money differently right now." This small shift keeps you in a state of power rather than one of limitation. Beyond words, practice the physicality of wealth. Move through the world as if you already have all that you need. If you were truly rich, how would you carry yourself? Would you walk with hesitation or with certainty? Would you shrink in discomfort or expand with confidence? Embody the posture, the breath, the ease of a person who knows they are abundant. This does not mean reckless spending or pretending to be someone you are not. It means aligning your inner world with the truth you wish to manifest. A wealthy person does not worry over every purchase, does not stress over bills, does not feel unworthy of luxury. Begin living in this state now and watch as reality molds itself around your new consciousness. Gratitude is another key to shifting into the consciousness of wealth. The mind that focuses on what is missing will always experience lack, no matter how much it accumulates. But the mind that focuses on abundance, on the riches already present, will attract more of the same. Every day, find evidence of wealth in your life. Perhaps it is the roof over your head, the food on your table, the opportunities that come your way. Acknowledge them, give thanks for them, and in doing so, you align yourself with the frequency of abundance. Wealth is not a number in a bank account. It is a state of mind. There are those who have millions and still live in fear, and there are those who possess very little yet feel limitless. The difference is in their consciousness. True wealth is the deep knowing that you are always provided for, that there is always enough, that abundance is your birthright. When you assume this consciousness, money ceases to be something you chase. It becomes something that flows to you effortlessly as a reflection of your inner state. To assume the consciousness of wealth is to no longer see yourself as someone who lacks. It is to walk in the world with a quiet confidence of one who knows their fortune is inevitable. It is to expect abundance, not as a possibility, but as an unshakable truth. It is to live now as the person you wish to become, knowing that in doing so, you are not pretending, you are creating. The moment you fully accept this state, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. Many people believe that they must first acquire money before they can feel wealthy. But this is a misunderstanding. It is not the money that creates the feeling. It is the feeling that creates the money. If you feel lack, if you feel desperation, if you feel unworthy, then no matter how much money you acquire, it will never be enough. But if you cultivate the feeling of abundance now, before any external changes occur, then money will flow to you effortlessly. This is why some people seem to attract wealth so easily while others struggle, no matter how hard they work. It is not effort alone that determines financial success. It is the consciousness behind the effort. When you move from a place of abundance, opportunities seem to come out of nowhere. Doors open where before there were only walls. People are drawn to you, eager to help, eager to collaborate, eager to bring you into new circles of influence. But when you operate from a place of lack, everything feels like a struggle. You feel as though you are constantly pushing, constantly chasing, constantly trying to catch up. This is because your inner state is one of insufficiency, and the world is merely reflecting that back to you. The shift must happen first, within. You must stop seeing wealth as something outside of you and begin to embody it now. Imagine for a moment that you already have everything you desire, not just the physical manifestations, but the feelings that come with them. Feel the confidence, the security, the freedom. Let it sink into your bones. Let it become part of you. Walk through the world as if this is already your reality. Speak as if you are already successful. Make choices as if you are already abundant. When you do this consistently, the world will bend to match your inner state. The difference between those who struggle and those who thrive is not external circumstances. It is perception. It is belief. It is the energy they carry. The truly wealthy do not stress over money because they know it is always flowing. They do not cling to every dollar in fear of losing it. They trust in the circulation of wealth, knowing that whatever they give will return to them multiplied. This trust is what allows them to take bold actions, to invest in themselves, to say yes to opportunities without hesitation. If you find yourself hesitating, questioning whether you deserve abundance, worrying about whether money will come, then you are reinforcing a state of lack. You must shift your inner dialogue. You must begin to affirm your wealth, not just in words, but in the way you move through life. When you sit down at a restaurant, do not look at the prices first. Look at what you truly desire. When you make a purchase, do not do so with fear. Do so with the assurance that money is always flowing to you. When you see others succeed, do not feel envy. Feel excitement, knowing that their success is proof of what is possible for you. Your mind is the foundation of your wealth. If you train it to expect abundance, abundance will come. If you train it to see opportunities, opportunities will appear. If you train it to embody success, success will manifest. But if you allow fear, doubt, and scarcity to take hold, then that is what you will experience. The choice is always yours. This shift is not about external displays of wealth. It is not about buying things to prove your status. True wealth is quiet, assured, and unshaken by appearances. It is an inner state of complete security, knowing that you are always provided for, that you are always supported, that the universe is always conspiring in your favor. This is the energy that attracts money, success, and opportunities effortlessly. You do not need to wait for circumstances to change before you adopt this mindset. You can begin now. The moment you start embodying the energy of abundance, the world will start to reflect it back to you. You do not need to force anything. You only need to align with the frequency of wealth, and it will come to you naturally. This is the secret that those who truly understand abundance have mastered. They do not chase, they attract. They do not hope, they know. They do not wait, they claim. The moment you decide that you are already wealthy, the world has no choice but to mirror that back to you. Your only job is to align your inner world with the abundance you seek, to protect your energy, to focus only on what elevates you, to refuse to engage in anything that does not serve your highest vision. The moment you commit to this way of being, you will begin to see the world shift in your favor. Opportunities will arise, money will flow, success will feel effortless, not because you are chasing it, but because you have finally become it.